We are live. Hi, Chloe. Just getting all my tech set up as we're going live on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Amazing. So, if you've got any burning baby sleep questions, hello. Hi, Remy, my cousin Remy. Hello. I always join his lives. He rips Pokemon cards. So, I love the family support. You too, Rem. Have the best day. Remy is an amazing paramedic. My family is full of medicos. We've got paramedics, micro paramedics, surgeons. I'm a paediatric nurse by trade originally, nurse turned sleep consultant. But yes, my family's in safe hands. I just got this amazing message because I put up a post this morning about share your baby sleep wins, and an amazing mother who also listens to the Nap Trapped podcast sent me a photo of their caravanning, and she has set up a slumber pod in the caravan, and this baby is taking the best naps ever, and she's listening to the pod in the caravan, and it was just such a great setup. And that is the level of investment in great sleep that I love to see. If a slumber pod was available when I had my babies and was traveling, I absolutely would have had one. All right, questions are coming through already. Let's have a look here. Emma, you asked, what would an 8-month schedule look like? It depends on whether or not your baby's on 3 naps or 2 naps. 3 naps is still absolutely age appropriate. So that might look something like 6:45, 7 a.m. up out of cot, and then we'd do a 9:30 till 10:15 nap 1, 12:45 till 2:15 nap 2, and then we're really just wanting a cheeky bridging nap to bedtime, so it might even be 5:15 till 5:30, and then bedtime 2 hours after that, so 7:30 into bed. If you are making the transition to 2 naps, the thing you are looking for is that baby outright refuses that 3rd nap even by 5:30. And I want families to throw every sleep crutch. She's on 3 naps per day. Fantastic. But this will set you up, Paige, for when she starts to refuse that 3rd nap. That is usually the sign that I'm looking for, that a baby has organically been able to increase their wake window and have increased reserve to stay awake for longer. And then that's usually the signal to drop it. Sometimes at 9 months old, I still have babies that are happily taking 3 naps. What starts to happen either side is early rising it wouldn't even be early rising when we look at sleep totals across 24 hours, but what feels like early rising starts to happen and bedtime gets later and later and later. It's very hard to hold on to 3 naps for a lot of 9+ months. So if you've still got 3 naps at 8 months, fantastic. That's what I would be doing. 9:30 till 10:15, 12:45 till 2:15, and a 5:15 till 5:30, and a 7:30 bed until baby starts to refuse that 3rd nap more often than not. Okay. How on earth am I helping my 7-month-old connect day sleep cycles? Megan, naps are a beast. Naps are really tricky. So when I do a 2-week package with families, let's say we were doing one together and your baby is 7 months old, the first couple of days, I just want you to focus on getting on the schedule, getting these great milk feeds in, getting a good balance of solids, lots of time down on the mat, setting up the sleep environment to encourage a really long restorative nap. Then what I usually do is I spend the first 3 or 4 nights on making sure that your baby truly has the self-settling skill mastered at bedtime and overnight. Now, your baby may already have that, but if they don't, that needs to happen first before we even get to linking the sleep cycle. And the reason for that is that for me, in my experience, the way I see baby sleep consolidate, so fall into place, first comes bedtime with self-settling, then comes linking the sleep cycles overnight, then comes falling asleep for the nap, and then comes the linking sleep cycles, which is what you're after, which sounds like a tedious process that you have to get all your ducks in a row, but that's what's going to set the stage for success. Now, you need to also be on a great age appropriate schedule so that your baby builds sleep pressure in all the right places. We want this great balance of tired enough to fall asleep for a nap, but tired enough to stay asleep. Then for a 7-month-old on a 3-nap schedule, I'd absolutely be having a baby on 3 naps. I would continue to fully assist nap 1, maybe even trim it, fully assist nap 3, and I would just nap train nap 2. And what that means is that it's not going to go perfectly day 1, day 2, maybe even day 3, but you have your 3rd nap as the backup plan so that if it falls short, if it's really messy, if it's, a bit heightened and everyone's ready to throw in the towel of naps, don't worry, you bring your 3rd nap a little bit earlier and you rescue the day, you protect your nights, and then you keep turning up to get this nap 2 locked in. And often the nap training does involve working to cot time or crib hour or whatever you would like to call it, because we want to encourage a baby's circadian rhythm, their production of melatonin. Hey, it's still dark. There's nothing to do here. There's nothing to see, nothing exciting. You can still do some checks. You could stick your head through the door. It depends on what technique you're using, but it often comes down to a little bit of cot time at the end to bring it all together. But in terms of that imaginary 2-week package that we're doing together, we will have achieved nights and naps by the end of the 2 weeks. So just to give you a hope light at the end of the tunnel, that's the sort of turnaround time that I'm usually looking for. Wondering for future, what is the sleep schedule for 8 and 9-month-old on 2 naps on 1 hour or 45-minute short long? Oh, Mary, this is a perfect question. We actually just released a Nap Trapped podcast episode. If anyone is new here and hasn't heard, I have a baby sleep podcast called Nap Trapped, and I co-host it with another amazing sleep consultant, Beck, who is also a moderator in my Snooze Social Baby Sleep membership. So we're in there answering questions together every week. And every week we do one episode, which is the main topic. And then we have a second weekly episode called Sleep Detectives, where we answer burning sleep questions just like these. We just released a podcast episode all about how to structure the short long based on exactly that. I might even pop the link to it in the chat here if anyone's interested. Bear with me. Here we go. I'll pop it in the Instagram chat because that's where the question has been asked, but it might look something like a 9:30 till 10:15 and a 1:15 till 3:15 nap structure. Sorry, I just got distracted by the technology there. Keep going. 12-hour night sleep for a 7-month-old means day nap total is 2 hour 45 minutes. A lot of families, and this is a good pickup on some of the schedules that I use, will notice that when we move to 2 naps, let's say at 8.5 months old, we go straight in asking for 3 hours of naps across the 2 naps. But when, let's say, baby's on a 7-month or 8-month-old 3-nap schedule, it sits just under that. And there's a reason why. We need to keep sleep pressure in the tank to keep the 3rd nap. If we don't have that, you are going to end up transitioning too soon to 2 naps. And for a lot of families, when that happens too early, things tend to spiral. So I sort of just sit under the 3 hours so that we have time and pressure to fit everything in. Claire, almost 8-month-old, last 2 nights slept until 4 a.m. for the first feed. Amazing. That is amazing. That's a huge win. Now I know I need to resettle any wakes before 4 a.m., but some days I can't make him eat as much solids as other days. Advice. You just keep turning up. Your baby has shown that they can organically sleep until 4 a.m. So the important thing here is that you need to have your milk feeds, your full complete milk feeds anchored in, and your solids at consistent times. And then I know that the average 8-month-old can actually go all night without a feed. So if you got to 4 a.m., that's absolutely incredible. The golden rule of nudging out overnight feeds, and I love that the process that I use means that we sort of follow baby's lead, is that now you know that they can go until 4 a.m. Everything before 4 a.m. from here on out is a resettle. Even if it's at 3:51, I would be resettling until baby goes back to sleep and then feeding it the next wake up. So that'll either be 5 minutes later or 2 hours later, or you never know that you may hear from them then at 6:15 and you have just dropped your overnight feeds. I'm just going to have a look on TikTok because there's a few questions coming through over here. Alison, my son's daycare won't wake from naps at 2 years, 4 months, sometimes sleep 2+ hours, wakes for 3 hours overnight. Any tips? It's really tricky. Luckily, at 2 years and 4 months, I'd still be keeping a nap in the mix. I have heard of a lot of childcare centres that do that. I don't know where you're located. A lot of my families in America seem to have that their childcares have that rule. You just need to build sleep pressure on the other side. It's a really you're kinda stuck, as in not in a doom and gloom way, but you're stuck because you only have X amount of hours to get their sleep in. So you're going to need to use your wake window from when they actually woke, and it's going to mean a later bed, most likely, particularly on the days where it is an over 2-hour nap, which is amazing. I mean, people, so many families that I work with would kill for a long, chunky nap like that at childcare. But I totally get at the moment it may be backfiring. The other thing about long, lengthy overnight wakings, let's say you've used the perfect wake window before bed, also having a look at what is happening at that overnight waking. Has it become habitual? Is there a little bit too much stimulation? I would be very, very much doing a less is more approach at this age, just to say, no, no, time for sleep. Always reassure them, but just if you've ended up rocking, patting, holding, reading books, just having a look at how you could be doing less of that. Brittany, quick question for today. Almost 14-month-old did nap 1 today, 10 till 10:30. Should I do next nap at 1 or 1:30? I would be going into the cot at 1 o'clock. That's a great nap for the transitional schedule. And if baby takes a little bit longer to fall asleep, no drama. Ice Cold says, Sally, 7-month-old, used to 7-hour sleep overnight, got sick, waking every hour ever since. These regressions commonly happen after sickness, travel, bad sleeps at childcare. That's unfortunately just the part of real life and baby sleep. What you always need to do, regardless of the cause, but in this case, always making sure that baby is better so that you can be confident in their ability to sleep well, is that know that those skills of linking, so if your baby was sleeping 7 hours, they were linking multiple sleep cycles on their own, which is incredible. Those skills haven't disappeared. What we need to do is a bit of a reset to entice them back out. And so whenever you hit a regression, sleep has gone pear-shaped, it's sideways, whatever is happening, we have to just go back to the basics. Is baby on the right schedule for their age? Are their milk and solid timings and intake adequate enough for overnight? Is the sleep environment set up to be conducive for great sleep? Are they warm enough? Is the white noise going? Is it dark enough? Then we hit reset on a little bit of sleep training to say, hey, I know that while you were sick, we had to meet your needs differently. You're now better. I mean, they're not going to understand this, but this is what you're going to tell yourself so that you go into the night feeling confident. You know what baby is capable of, and then you just sleep train essentially. And even I've had to do it when my daughter was 15 months old. I know I've said this before on the podcast. She got terrible hand, foot, and mouth. She was a rock star sleeper. I never had to formally sleep train her. She just understood the assignment pretty much since the day I brought her home. But she had really bad hand, foot, and mouth, ulcers in her mouth, wasn't eating and drinking well enough. And so naturally we were up in the night. We did all the things you meant to do. And anyway, then she turned a corner, but at bedtime there was still pushback. And at 1 a.m. she was still asking for mummy sit, mummy book. And I thought, oh, if you're well enough to say this, I think you're well enough to go back to sleeping through the night. And I decided I'm going to it wasn't even re-sleep training because I never had to do it, but I'm going to sleep train bedtime. So I used a 5, 10, 15-minute time check. I did a modified FERBA because this girl knows how to self-settle. And I didn't even get to the 15-minute timer. She was like, oh, okay. The jig is up. And she put in her thumb and didn't wake again. So it happens even to the babies of sleep consultants. Shelley, I have actually hired a couch cleaner from you when I was pregnant with my second baby. So, hi, I am now going to exchange my clean couch for some baby sleep advice. 4.5-month-old still does 4 naps. Oh my God. Hello. Yes. Hi. I sent my husband because I was heavily pregnant and everything was grossing me out at home. And your partner gave him the couch cleaner, and then I put him to work. 4.5-month-old still does 4 naps because he an extra feed at 8 and sleeps through. I worry if I put to bed, he will wake for a feed. Do I keep the 4th nap so he continues to sleep through? You're really on the cusp of 4 versus 3 naps. So if what you're doing right now is working for you, absolutely rock it. It also depends on whether or not your baby is able to consolidate and link a sleep cycle. It's still really normal and common for 4.5-month-old babies to cat nap. So I would, in terms of 4 naps, happily take 4 45-minute naps at this age. I also, a lot of babies can also take longer consolidated naps, particularly if you've been working on linking sleep cycles this whole time. So you do 45-minute, 2-hour, and then 2 45s. If you've got a 2-hour nap in the mix, I'm just getting what I recently put a 4-month-old that could do that as well. What did I put them on? I write so many schedules every single week that sometimes I can't remember them all just off the top of my head. So what did we do? We did I'm just trying to think. We did a 1-hour nap in the morning and then a 2-hour nap in the afternoon and a 45-minute bridging nap to get to the afternoon. And we did 8:45 till 10, 12 till 2, 4 till 4:45, into bed at 6:45. Now, your fear is that baby won't sleep as long because they're used to getting this top-up feed. The transition is going to happen at some point anyway. What I would say is go into the night saying I'm going to feed 4 hourly overnight and resettle anything in between. So if there was still a waking, let's say at 8 p.m. because baby's little internal body clock's like something happens at this time, I would actually look to resettle that, knowing that you will have done a really great big milk feed, let's say at 6:15, that come 8. It's not a hunger issue. It's going to become a resettle. And it's going to be a bit clunky on the first couple of nights because we're messing with baby's body clock, but it will become a blip on the radar. Equally, as I said before, if what you are doing right now works for you, just keep on keeping on. And I will definitely hit you up. I can see a stain on the couch as we speak. Hopefully that made sense, Shelley. Incredible. Your baby has some incredible sleep skills. So well done. Maddie has asked, what do you recommend day sleep schedule wise for a nearly 13-month-old? Bedtime is always around 6:30. Maddie, this is a really great age for what I call the transitional schedule, which is essentially a short long. So it would be a 10 till 10:30 nap 1 and a 1 till 3 nap 2 and a 7 p.m. into bed at 13 months. And the beauty of this schedule is that it will future proof you for the next few months until your baby is ready to transition to one nap, which might seem far fetched now at 13 months. But I'm always looking to future proof for my family, set them all up for success, take out a lot of the guesswork. So I would be working to a transitional schedule. I also have a podcast episode all about that. And then we even have a follow-up one because so many people love that episode that then there were a lot of questions. So we did a troubleshooting nap transition episode. So definitely go and have a listen to that. The podcast is called Nap Trapped and you can listen to it on Spotify. Apparently now lots of people are watching it on YouTube. So Beck, my co-host, and I really have to up our presentation game. And you can also listen to it on Apple Podcasts. All right. What's Instagram got for me? Oh, and speaking of the podcast, today I was at the shops buying dinner for tonight, and someone said, "Sally?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Oh, we recognize you from the pod." I was like, "Oh my goodness, I feel like a celebrity in my sweaty gym gear after hot mat Pilates." Oh, Courtney, you're asking about your 18-month-old who used to self-settle and now won't. He screams the house down and is co-sleeping at night, but moves around the whole bed all night and never actually gets a solid sleep. Help. I'm going to I'd need to know more, but hello, 18-month sleep regression. Your new favorite podcast episode is going to come out tomorrow. We are talking all things 18-month sleep regression, and how it manifests is usually absolute showdown at bedtime, screaming, howling, tantruming, and it can happen to the best of sleep. No one is immune. Not everyone will experience it, but you can't prevent it. And it's to do with the toddlers wanting some autonomy, some boundary pushing. This is all their job. This is your toddler is only doing what they're meant to do. But what happens is it tends to snowball. Then parents understandably like, we just need to get some sleep. And you end up doing things like co-sleeping, rocking, holding, bouncing, 10 million books, like just trying to get some sleep. We need to bring it right back. This is something I can't sugarcoat and I won't sugarcoat. Re-sleep training and holding the boundary for an 18-month-old can be really tough. It is absolutely effective and will work. It is okay to have a boundary around independent sleep. Those self-settling skills are absolutely still there. As always, and I was just talking about this before, when we hit a regression of any kind, we always have to check sleep hygiene, sleep environment, scheduling, all of that, so that come bedtime when the screaming, and it's hard. Nobody wants to hear it. I don't want you to hear it. If you are not wanting to continue co-sleeping, and it doesn't sound like you are because nobody's getting rest, then we need to hit reset and it will absolutely work. The thing that I want families with sort of this age and stage and, with the 2-year sleep regression as well, is that this is a very different experience from sleep training a 5-month-old baby. And that's okay. For anything, I think the predictability of this is night time, not only does your toddler absolutely need the sleep and you need the sleep, and it's okay for you to need a break after bedtime, but the predictability is actually provides a sense of safety for a lot of toddlers, and it is okay that they're not thrilled about it. Your consistency and ongoing reassurance is what is going to get everything back on track. And definitely tomorrow's episode will walk you through it in greater detail. Georgia, how do I know when my baby is ready to transition from 1 to 2 naps? Do you mean 2 to 1 naps? I'm going to guess 2 to 1 naps. If you're using the transitional schedule, which I went over just before, which is the 10 till 10:30 nap 1 and then a 1 till 3 nap 2. The point of that is what commonly occurs if we do it the other way around and we have maybe a long nap in the morning and then maybe we're even aiming for a long nap in the afternoon, is that babies that max out with their first long nap in the morning then start to refuse nap 2, at which point a lot of families think, this must be the sign, and understandably, this must be the sign that it's ready. We're ready to transition to 1 nap. The problem with that is it definitely, some babies can rock it. A lot of babies, it works really well for a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks, and then overtiredness really starts to compound. So by switching it and trimming the first nap and having this lovely, long, well-established nap 2 in the afternoon, what ends up happening is that as your baby's 13, 14, 15, 16, etc. months, is that the 10 till 10:30 nap, you start to whittle down. So it might end up becoming like just 10:20 to 10:30. It's done in the pram, on the way to the park. You're going to get a baby chino. And then you're home always for this lovely long afternoon nap. Is that the sign I'm looking for is that come 10:30 in the morning, your baby's absolutely outright refusing that first nap. And again, that what that shows is that they have organically increased their wake window rather than us misinterpreting the nap refusal and then thinking, okay, I'm going to have to stretch them. And that's where the overtiredness can sort of cause things to combust a little bit. So that was a short story long to say, if you're using the transitional schedule, I'm looking for nap 1 refusal. And then all your baby's body clock has to do is move the afternoon nap down to 11:30. And that commonly happens somewhere between 15 and 18 months. I will do it at 14 months if I have exhausted all other options. Sorry, I joined late. That's okay. I'm here for a while, Fiona. No problem. I was late. So may have been covered. But what do you do when the second nap of 3 is short? Do you then wait till the original time for nap 3, but risk overtiredness? Yeah. So it happens all the time. It happens all the time during my 2-week packages when we first start nap training. Nap 2 historically always falls short. The beauty of your 3 nap schedule is the third nap is going to save the day. So what I would usually do is from the time that baby actually woke, so even if you didn't get them up at that time, maybe you're doing some active nap training, from when they woke from nap 2, you use your full wake window to know when nap 3 is going to start. And it could be that instead of 30 minutes, you actually need a 45-minute nap to sort of flesh out the second half of the day and get you to an age appropriate bedtime that doesn't feel crazy early. If I'm just having a look, did you put how old your baby is? No, but I'm guessing 6, 7, 8 months. Is that if you use a 45-minute nap in the afternoon, use a full wake window until bed. If you use a 30-minute nap, use a 2-hour. So it could be that you're using a 2.5-hour wake window to bed off a 45-minute nap, or a 2-hour wake window if it's only a 30-minute nap. And 7 months. Okay, perfect. So yes, I would be doing either, just depending on how short nap 2 is, either a 45-minute nap to really try and combat overtiredness, and then a longer wake window before bed, or 30 minutes. Maybe some babies just only want to do 30 minutes despite your best efforts. Then you use a 2-hour wake window to bed. It's going to feel messy. rinse and repeat the next day, and that nap starts to consolidate, or maybe it's just a furphy and a one-off, and that's your backup plan. That was a whole lot of numbers. Sorry. Hope that made sense. Um, All right. M over on TikTok says, how many hours should you cap day naps for at 8-month-old, and what should the last wake window be before bed? This is the 9:30 till 10:15, 12:45 till 2:15 nap, and at 8 months old, we're going to do a 5:15 till 5:30 nap 3, and then you're going to use a 2-hour wake window to bed. Now, this I just mentioned the 2-hour wake window as well for Fiona with her 7-month-old. If I ever make content about that sort of scheduling or that wake window, I always get flooded with, my baby could never do a 2-hour wake window. This seems crazy. Why is it so short? And there's a reason. There is method to the madness. A 15-minute nap. First of all, sleep pressure builds from the moment we all wake up in the morning. And yes, babies get these naps to break it up, but come bedtime, we are all primed and ready for sleep. So it's sort of like neurologically, baby is tapping out come the afternoon and evening. So we always want to err on the closer to, earlier to bed side of things, or at least I do. But the other thing is that if your baby M is taking a 15-minute bridging nap in the afternoon just to get you to bedtime, that is not a full restorative sleep cycle. And the same for Fiona's baby at 7 months. A 30-minute nap is not the complete sleep cycle, which means if we were to give them, particularly on my scheduling, give them this huge long wake window, there's often overtiredness. I would so much rather a baby go into bed well rested, take a little bit longer to fall asleep, and then know that it's truly self-settling. We're not going into the night overtired if we can avoid it. I would take that any day over these long wake windows. Not only that, as a parent, I can be obsessed with and I am with my children and babies, and then I also need a break after bedtime. So one of the other things that I always try and prioritize for most families is that bedtime is sitting somewhere between 7 and 7:30, so that you can clock off, have a hot meal, watch Love Island, do something productive, and you've got time to be you as well as a parent all day. So that would be my schedule for you, M. Geordie. Oh, Geordie, I saw your message just before. 11-month-old sleep training, moving from co-sleeping and feeding to sleep, focus on night. Second half of the night, really hard. Any tips? We are using more of a hands-on approach mixed with time interval, aiming for 4-hour feeds at night, but struggling to get that in the night. Geordie, I always, with any of these questions, need to know more. It sounds like you have made huge progress. Co-sleeping and feeding to sleep are two of the strongest sleep associations out there, because there's very little wriggle room for weaning as such. As in, you could do a little bit less patting. It's very hard to do less co-sleeping. So the other thing is that it's really common that the first half of the night is the easiest stretch. It's often the deepest stretch for babies, sort of bedtime until midnight. And then the second half of the night can be really tricky. So you're definitely not alone in that. The thing that jumps out to me immediately is that if you are using a hands-on, a mixed approach at 11 months old, it can be incredibly overstimulating for a lot of babies. So if your baby is now self-settling and linking sleep cycles for that first half of the night, your baby has those skills. I would be looking at doing less of that, because sometimes they just need space. And in terms of hands-on settling, I find that for a lot of babies, and I think it's really appropriate that you use that coming from co-sleeping and feeding to sleep. I have no issue with that. For a lot of babies, though, just for sort of context and perspective, is that it often has a shelf life after about 4 to 6 months, and particularly once a baby can stand in their cot. So I would have a look at how you can start doing less to say, "Hey, I know you've got these great skills. Now we're going to provide you the space and reassurance, definitely, to use them for the second half of the night, and you need to follow through." That is also perfect, Geordie, if you want me to take a look at what's going on, because I can tell you've been doing a lot of hard work, you will be so close to seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Chances are it's just a few tweaks here and there. This is the perfect thing to book a consult for. So I can do an audit, I can check schedule, I can do all the things, and then make my suggestions of what I would do differently so that you can complete this and move forward, because I know it's been tricky. How can I get my 8-month-old to go to sleep? He just learnt to crawl and won't settle. You don't need to. The truth is we can't make babies go to sleep. We can't make them stay asleep. What I would say is that less is more. Let the novelty of crawling run its course. If they wanna crawl, in their cot or their crib, no problem. It's the same when they first learn to stand. You can reassure them it's night-night time, but if they're not upset and they just wanna crawl, go for it. It's really common babies that, new physical developmental milestones can need to be practiced in the cot. So definitely lots of practice down on the mat during the day so that the novelty wears off a little bit, but essentially I would let them crawl and then drift off when they are ready, rather than you actively going in to say no, 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 you have to stop and sleep, because then it's like, whoa, I do this and look, my favorite person comes in and now it's time to party. Geordie, you're welcome, you're welcome. My 6-month-old wakes up shrieking 30 minutes into her night sleep after a 3.5 hour wake window. What is happening here? How should I manage this? Um, Joyce, I'm not sure if you heard just before. I was just talking about how, and I'm not sure of what your scheduling is, but how the a 3.5 hour wake window, if you've only had a short afternoon nap to get you to bedtime, may in fact be too long. And then you've got some overtiredness, which can cause overnight wakings. It can also mean a baby cries hard, and in your case, potentially shrieking. Now, that's just a guess as to what's might be going on, but a 3.5 hour wake window off what's probably a short afternoon nap is potentially too long for them. Fiona, amazing. Thank you. You're welcome. Kayla Elizabeth, help me, please. Kayla, I'm just trying to see if you've asked a question or maybe you just need help in general. There are so many options if anyone is needing help from me. So I have free downloadable guides on the catnapping, on the 4-month sleep regression. I have a baby sleep membership called Snooze Social, where you're in there Monday to Friday answering questions. I have a baby sleep podcast called Nap Trapped with 2 episodes out each week. And I just got a lovely message actually before saying your podcast is legit the best thing ever, which is just so lovely. Thank you. We've actually been blown away. Like, we are just two sleep consultants who love to chat baby sleep and wanted to do something different from all the fear mongering that we hear and see online. And it's now had over 30,000 downloads on streams on Spotify. We have merchandise. We've got nap trapped caps, and I love seeing them out in the wild whilst people are out wearing their babies in the carrier going for a walk. I also have sleep guides. So if you're looking for a DIY cost-effective approach, then you can download. I have a 4th trimester, 3 to 4 month sleep course, 5 to 12 month sleep guide. A toddler course will come, I promise. And then I have consults. If you want to chat, if you want to skip all that and I can just write a plan. Then we can meet on a one-on-one consult. And then the piece de resistance is the 2-week sleep package. which includes the consult. And then you and I go into my app and we talk every single day for 2 weeks. So all of these questions of nap 2 was short, this is what time that feed was, I do all the thinking for you. We tackle nights and naps all at once. I only do a couple of those per month just because they're involved and I want to give those families the time and dedication that they deserve. So if you are looking for support, there are so many options out there. And I'm going to continue to do these lives because I really enjoy them. Um, okay, you've asked fresh 5-month-old, first wake window 2 hours and a 1.5 hour nap. Next wake window 2.25, but the next nap is always 30 minutes. So normal and common that a baby's first nap of the day is the one that they consolidate first, textbook. But also, once I see a baby can do that, I can, as in they can link that sleep cycle for the first nap, I will often then trim it so that we give sleep pressure to nap 2. So at 5 months, I would probably be looking to do a 9 till 10 nap. So cap it at 10 o'clock. Then I'd be doing a 12:15, 12:30 till 2. You may need to rescue it for the first couple of the days and then look to nap train it. And then a 4 till 4:45 p.m. nap 3 and a 6:45 into bed. How can I make my 16-month-old sleep more than 10 hours, max 10 and a half hours at night? I I think if you asked most babies and toddlers when they would like to wake up, it would probably be at the 10 and a half hour mark. I Where I would always think, okay, how is sleep totals distributed across the whole 24 hours so that we make sure that I can feel confident, okay, you've got sleep pressure in the tank still in those early hours of the morning. So a 16-month-old, I would most likely, because I'm going to interpret this as you've got an early rise, that at 10 and a half hours, maybe that's in the 5:30s, baby is up, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to start the day. I would use the transitional schedule, so the 10 till 10:30, or maybe at this age you're just doing a 10:15 till 10:30 fully assisted nap 1 and then a 1 till 3 nap 2. And then 7 p.m. into bed. And then I would want to make sure are the calories in place to get you a longer sleep in the morning? Is the environment set up? Is baby warm enough? Once we have our ducks in a row, this is where we bring out the early rising protocol and you sleep train until 7 a.m., even if baby doesn't go back to sleep. And it can be a slog. Again, no sugarcoating today, but a lot of sleep consultants, I think, scared to sleep train out an early rise because it's not a nice time of the morning for anyone. It's so close to starting the day. Plus, in the first few mornings, babies do not go back to sleep. And I always normalize that for my families. If a baby does, amazing. But it's not a fail if they don't, because what you're doing is not reinforcing the 10 to 10 and a half hour max. You are saying, hey, it's still night time. And then it's lights, cameras, action at 7 a.m. Now, moving forward, baby does not have to sleep until 7 till 7 on the dot. When we fix an early rise, we have to overshoot so that the reason for this is that the pattern that I usually see when we're fixing an early rise is, okay, baby's up at 5 a.m. That's how they're hardwired at the moment. Their little internal alarm clock goes off. It doesn't go back to sleep. No big deal. Then on, let's say, morning 4, instead of 5, they woke at 5:50 and then didn't go back to sleep. Cool. Then they wake at 6:20 and then it just gets incrementally closer and closer. Or the other way it goes is baby does not go back to sleep and then at 6:36 or 6:51 a baby goes back to sleep. And that is what we are looking for. So if we pulled the pin at 6 a.m., we miss that opportunity. So we need to overreach until 7 if that's the schedule that you're on, and treat it like a night waking, even if baby does not go back to sleep. Now, if they do not go back to sleep, you still hold steady with that first morning nap. You do not bring the nap time earlier. because that can also reinforce an early rise. So but it takes time, just like jet lag. So let's say your 16-month-old has been sleeping 10 hours for the last 6 months, maybe even longer than that. That is hardwired into their circadian rhythm. You need to give this time, give it solid 2 weeks before you decide it is or isn't working. But I am not afraid to sleep train out an early rise. Court, you've asked, could I get a 10-month-old sleep schedule? If your baby's a fresh 10-month-old, I'm going to go in with a 9:30 till 11 nap 1 and a 2 till 3:30 nap 2. We're going to offer plenty of sleep, um, because a lot of freshly turned 10-month-old babies can absolutely do that, and that would be a 7 p.m. bed. If you're getting nap 2 refusal, maybe they're a really great sleeper, or maybe they're closer to 11 months and you want to move to more of a short long, then I'd probably be doing a 9:30 till 10:15, a 1:15 till 3:15 nap 2, and a 7:15 into bed. Yeah. A 4-hour wake window before bed at 10 months old is absolutely fine. He does not go back to sleep. Yes, this is the 16-month-old, wakes up 5:30, he does 10 till 10:30, 1:30 till 3. Yep. Um, Something else is going to be missing, and depends on what your technique and approach is. Definitely worth booking in a consultation so I can figure out what might be going on. He started it 2 months ago. Yep, there'll be something, and the early rising can be really stubborn. It can be really stubborn, but we'll get there. I recently finished with a baby in the UK, granted younger than 16 months, and it took 3 weeks. We had to unpack a few other things and then sort of restart, so it was probably 2 weeks by the time we sorted that out, but it's tricky. So you're going to be so close, and I can tell you're doing so many of the right things. I definitely recommend um, booking in a consultation so we can figure this out. Um, Amy's asked, the 6-month-old baby feeds to sleep, how to get her to go into the cot awake. So, one of the first places to start is by moving your final feed, breast bottle, doesn't matter, 30 minutes prior to bed. And I would actually do it in a different environment. So, rather than being in the cozy, dark nursery that's very associated with feeding, sleeping, all of that, I would actually do it out on the lounge. It doesn't have to be all lights blazing, low stim, or maybe in your room, it might be, we just want something to help stimulate a baby to stay awake and to complete the feed. And then going into the nursery for sleeping bag, white noise stories, big cuddles, and into bed awake. It can often take a few days to sort of shift out of this pattern. It can still be that even in a different environment, baby wants to, if the association's really strong, baby just wants to drift off. It's really natural, I understand. So it would be about rousing. Maybe even baby's just in their nappy while you're doing the final feed, then you even change the nappy, before you pop them on the other side or finish the second half of the bottle. And then just to break out of that cycle, and it can take a few days and nights. The other thing is, you also then want to have a look at where the other feeds are placed throughout the day. So at 6 months old, I'd be working to 4-hourly feeds, breast bottle, doesn't matter. We just want them to be complete, so that again, baby is sort of hardwired that I feed 4-hourly. I'm not feeding to sleep, and then you go into the cot awake. And it may feel like drowsy but awake initially. That is nothing. That's not what I ever aim for, although it commonly happens initially. I want awake, 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 to truly move through all of those layers of self-settling on their own, Or if you're not quite ready for that, then awake, awake for you to use another association like rocking all the way to sleep, bouncing on the football all the way to sleep to help your little one drift off in a way that is not feeding. These are some great questions. If I miss your questions, definitely jump into Snooze Social, which is my baby sleep membership, which is something new is coming very soon for that. So stay tuned. But these questions are all great, and that's what Beck and I do in Snooze Social Monday to Friday. Is we answer all of these questions. But not only that, you have over 200 members from around the world, which is incredible. That also say, "Hey, this is what I did at this age group." We also do live office hours so that we can meet and greet as well. And you can just join that through the link in my bio. 4.5-month-old is going through the sleep regression, waking up 20 times a night on a bad night. Should we sleep train now? A baby who escalates quite quickly and doesn't settle gentle fervor. That definitely sounds like the 4-month sleep regression. I think when you hit the 4-month sleep regression and you're in the thick of it, I think it is one of the most perfect times to start sleep training if that is up your alley. The thing to remember that for me, sleep training, the actual technique such as the FERBA or modified FERBA is just the icing on the cake. So where all of this starts is by moving to great timings for feeds, great timings of naps, and then adding in the technique on top. And I think a modified FERBA or FERBA can be incredibly age appropriate if that's your jam at this age. If you are looking for other settling options and sort of step by step how to do it, then my 3 to 4 month sleep course has all of those in it that will walk you through, including space soothing. So a modified FERBA for this age group. The other thing is that if anyone is sitting on the cusp like this baby of 4.5 months, I get this question all the time. My baby's 4.5 months. Do I get the 3 to 4 month sleep course or the 5 to 12 month sleep guide? Understandable. Because I have something new coming in the work, like a whole new platform for all of you, is that I have actually put together a first 12 months bundle, which is cheaper than the 3 to 4 month sleep course. And you get the 3 to 4 month sleep course, the 5 to 12 month sleep guide, and a month in Snooze Social. So if you would like that, send me a DM and just say, first 12-month bundle, please, or something along those lines, and I'll know what you're talking about. And I will send you the checkout link. It's $87 US, and the 3 to 4 month course is 117. So you're getting good bang for your buck there. And the same on TikTok. You can definitely just DM me there, and I'll know. Oh, sorry, I was just got distracted by all this flood of uh, questions on TikTok. Do you believe in cry it out? Cry it out is also known as the extinction method. And essentially, I mean, you don't really need a sleep consultant for it because you essentially put your baby into their cot or crib at bedtime and you don't go in either for a feed or you don't go back into the morning. It's not something I use. I truly believe that babies are natural pattern seekers, and I want to create a pattern of reassurance that will always come back. The other thing is, as a sleep consultant, I work one-on-one with a lot of families, and so I want to and need to work to their comfort levels. So there are lots of other things we can do. I will never judge or shame a mother or family for doing extinction or true cry it out. I think there are steps in between. I do also know that some babies escalate so much harder, and I think this is the issue with social media and baby sleep and cry it out is cry it out just gets bandied around left, right, and center. Everything is cry it out. Every form of sleep training is cry it out, cry it out, cry it out. The other thing is that because of the breadth of and the volume of families that I work with and the questions I get, I have seen so many variations in temperament. And if a family ends up having done everything else from in the room, hands on, and nothing is working, they end up doing extinction and it works, I will never, ever judge. We are all trying to do the best for our family. Do I personally use it? Not, no, not in that way because I want to create a pattern, but I also want families to learn the difference between low grade crying, high grade crying, what is escalation, when do we need to intervene, what does baby do once we're in there. I feel like that was a really, again, I love a long winded answer. I just don't want a family to be listening to this or reading this thinking, I ended up doing cry it out and now I feel shamed. I don't want a family ever to feel that regardless of like where they're getting their baby sleep information. We are all trying to do the absolute best for our families. And speaking of crying, is it okay to let my baby cry for 3 minutes when trying to get him to go to sleep? The way I sometimes think about this, I mean, this is completely up to you. If that doesn't feel right, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. The Here's the thing, with my second baby, he cried in my arms, swaddled with me trying to hold a dummy in a rocking chair in my arms. He would cry. He would cry and cry and cry around sleep. And I got to the point where I thought I need to pop him down. I had a second child. I need to pop him down, and if anything, the crying got less. I was clearly overstimulating and, I'm misinterpreting the signs, and postpartum everything, was very tricky. The other thing is to remember is that babies cry not just from distress. Babies cry because they're linking a sleep cycle. Babies cry because they need to burp. Babies cry because babies cry. So 3 minutes for me is no big deal. Whether that's you're leaving them for 3 minutes and then you want to go in and rescue, or if you're doing some more formalized sleep training, maybe with some controlled crying or a FERBA, and you just want to cap it at 3 minutes. No big deal. The other thing I think of is having 2 children. Sometimes my second baby, there was no choice, but he had to have a bit of a cry because I had a toddler in the bath that I couldn't just leave because I could hear my other baby wake up, or I was toilet training when I had a second young baby, and so I might have been wiping a bottom and couldn't leave a 2-year-old on the toilet on their own. And so there were always these moments where, even though you feel your skin crawl and like, I want to get to my baby, I want to get to my baby, I couldn't help it despite all of my best efforts. And at times there definitely would have been 3-minute intervals. So I it depends on what your threshold is, what your goal is, technique. There's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. I hope my answer on the cry it out made sense. It's always I'm definitely not afraid of talking about crying or cry it out, but things often make sense in my head. And then when I go to say it out loud, I think, I hope that translated. Okay. Rani, I'd be holding on to your third nap, but I would be shifting your timings. So put that second nap at 12:45 till 2:15, and then what did you say, baby? 7 months. Then I'd be doing like a 5 till 5:30, not 4:30. And then that way you're gonna hold on to it for much longer. I wouldn't be dropping it at 7 months, if you can, particularly because 'cause they're not, refusing it by the sounds of it. Okay, 6-month-old feeds are anchored every 4 hours. Oh, I love hearing, when followers and listeners use our terminology from the pod. 6-month-old feeds are anchored every 4 hours and slowly phasing them out as he naturally sleeps through a 4-hourly feed overnight. Do you recommend starting to sleep train during this process? Or, I might have missed the second half of your question. So you keep your 4-hourly anchored milk feeds in during the day. They stay until you drop to 2 naps at 8 to 9 months. If your baby is sleeping through the 4-hourly feed overnight, fantastic. Um, you you may need a tech. I'm just trying to see if I interpret your question correctly. You can absolutely start sleep training during this process. It sounds like baby has some great sleep skills already, so it would just kind of be the final steps rather than total sleep overhaul and transformation, because if they're sleeping through the 4-hourly feed overnight, then they're linking sleep cycles. So what sometimes happens though is if you've never had to formally or actively sleep train, you then may get a waking, let's say at the 3 hours versus the 4 hour mark for a feed. And you need a settling technique up your sleeve, in which case you use a sleep training technique to help remain consistent, keep the calories sort of on their way out in an age appropriate way, and bring it all together. Alexandra, 18-month-old, suddenly fighting naps and bedtime massively. Wake 6 a.m., nap 12 till 2, bed 7 till 7:30, usually cuddle to sleep within 10 minutes. Now asking to be put in cot, then out again, then in, doing everything he can bar sleep. Um, Alexandra, you may have missed at the beginning of this live, another mother was asking a very similar thing. And this sounds very much like the 18-month sleep regression, which is all about pushing boundaries in a very toddler age appropriate way. That's why I smile, because it's the I want to be in, I want to be out, I want to be in, I want to be out. I need another sip, I need more breast milk, I need 10 more books, I need to say nine to the teddies. It all becomes this, where is the limit? And that is the toddler's job, is to figure out, where do I sit in this dynamic and the boundaries around sleep. So I would be just getting back on track and seeing it through. So if cuddle to 10, if you have a 10-minute cuddle and then they're not asleep, into the cot they go. If they were previously a great sleeper, those skills are still there. Keep your eyes peeled, but maybe your ears peeled, because tomorrow's podcast episode of Nap Trapped is all about the 18-month sleep regression. And we talk about exactly what to do. So if you don't follow us already, definitely go and subscribe to Nap Trapped, and then you won't miss it, because we'll walk you through everything. Oh my God, I've been searching for help. 11-month-old sleeps 10 hours at night and 2 45-minute naps, enough sleep. If that works for you, go for it. I would be wanting more sleep than that. I would probably be looking for like 30 to 45 minutes. It depends if your baby's a fresh, how old do you say? Oh, 11 months. So I'd probably be doing 45 minutes in the morning and then looking more like 2 hours in the afternoon. And then on my schedules, I am looking for 11 to 12 hours of sleep overnight. So I would definitely say there is more sleep to be had. He doesn't want to wake up at 45 minutes, always takes a lot of stimulation to get him awake. Okay, just cap the first one and keep the second one long, just in case some of your the overtiredness from too short naps is then contributing to the early rise. Megan, you helped me so much with my daughter at 5 months going from co-sleeping to in her crib. Thank you. Oh my goodness, you're welcome. That's so nice to hear. Co-sleeping to crib is a big transition and step, and it can feel really intimidating, and it is absolutely so possible and absolutely life-changing for so many families to get your bed back. Everyone gets better sleep. It's definitely definitely possible. So I'm so glad I was able to help you. Alexandra says, thank you. I'll give the podcast a listen. Excellent. So, yes, the podcast, we do one main episode a week on a topic. Tomorrow's the 18-month sleep progression. And then every Thursday, we release an episode called Sleep Detectives, where we answer all of these sorts of questions that we get in our question box. And Beck, my co-host, and I usually don't prepare. We just have a crack. And but I think that there's beauty in that, because it's not this overly prepared script or answer for you. It's genuinely what we would do and how we would interpret the question and the conundrum that you are experiencing. And I tell you what, the amount of questions that we get that are so similar should be so reassuring for families that you are never alone in what you are experiencing. Jade, is it okay my 10-month-old has a 2-hour nap for his first nap, then 30 minutes in the afternoon to get him to bed? Is it okay? Absolutely. The problem I suspect you are going to experience in the not too distant future is that because that first nap is long, your baby is going to run out of sleep pressure. The nap 2 is going to be impacted, and it's already quite short. And if baby was to refuse that second nap, you are left with either an incredibly early bedtime, which can fast become unsustainable, or you're going to end up with a very long wake window, which causes overtiredness, overnight wakings, and early rising, and then in turn short naps if it spirals and snowballs. So I like, and look, this is just how I do it. And I've done this for 8 years, but this is just how I do it. I like the second half of the day to be really fleshed out with sleep so that a baby goes into the night well rested. Now, overtiredness happens. It's not like the big scary thing that a lot of people make it out to be. I do, however, try to avoid it if possible. And by having the afternoon full of sleep, it means that a baby goes into the night well rested, meaning that their cortisol is sort of better managed, that you're not going to get overnight wakings and early rising because of that. But not only that, you will be able to hold on to 2 naps for much longer than if your baby gets older, continues to take this amazing long chunky nap. We just want to flip it. So let me just go back, Jade, 10-month-old. So you might trim it and do 9:30 till 11, 2 till 3:30, and a 7:30 bed. Somewhere between that. That second nap may need some nap training or some rescuing initially, just because baby's body clock doesn't know the plan, but it's absolutely possible. The next iteration of that is then moving to a short long, but I always try and prioritize the second half of the day, because I work with families to protect their nights above all else, and the work that they have done. Amy says, love the pod. I have a good sleeper. Touch wood. I'll touch wood for you too. Always when I say that, but always find it so interesting. I'm so glad. I saw someone repost our pod this week saying, finally a baby sleep podcast that doesn't fearmonger. And I just thought, that's the translation we're wanting. We're really wanting to, we just have fun, and we laugh a lot. You can laugh at us as well if you want to, but it's, Beck and I sometimes even do things differently. We have different answers and different spins on things, but we want families to know that better sleep is absolutely possible in a really evidence-based way with no fear-mongering. That's the thing that grinds my gears on social media, particularly from other sleep consultants, and even more so on sleep consultants that advertise themselves as gentle. I feel like the shame from so many, not all, of course, but like so many gentle sleep consultants, the shame that you can feel is just profound when we're all just trying to do our best. The other part of what we really hope translates to our listeners on the podcast is why. So it's all well and good for me to say, do this nap here and this nap here and these feeds here. But for you to sustainably implement long term and also feel empowered and equipped with the tools that when you do hit a regression that you think, okay, I know what to do and I understand why and I know why it's going to work. Because that's the empowering part. I'm not there at 2 a.m. I wish I could come and shush and pat and sleep train and do all of those things. But we want to explain why so you don't just feel like, oh, because the sleep consultant told me to. Uh, Flip-flopping between 1 to 2 naps with a 16-month-old, is this okay? It's definitely okay. I myself flip-flopped a little bit around this age. The thing to know is that at some point, you sometimes need to just bite the bullet and say, "Right, we're moving on to 1 nap." The thing to look out for, particularly at this age, and it's still very age appropriate for a 16-month-old to be on 2 naps, is what is the structure of the naps? I'm probably apologies to anyone if I'm sounding like a broken record, but the transitional schedule of the 10 till 10:30, or at 16 months, it's going to be like 10:15 till 10:30, or 10:20 till 10:30, and then having that lovely long 1 till 3 p.m. afternoon nap means that there's less flip flopping and more whittling down of the first nap before the transition. But at some point, sometimes we do just need to say, right, we're making the call, particularly if something else was happening, like if you're getting inconsistencies overnight or inconsistent early rising or something like that. But if it's all fine and you're just finding it's a transition and it's a really big one, and the wake window has to increase quite dramatically. So yes, flip-flopping can absolutely happen, and sometimes at some point we just need to say, "Right, we're doing this," but if it's working for you now, then go for it. Jess says, "Having trouble with 9-month-old, used to be able to self-settle and now can't without feeding and rocking." The most common age group I work with is 6 to 9-month-old babies. 9-month-old babies, can often be cheeky sleepers because we've got a lot of things in the mix in terms of change. Often they're standing up. They're definitely on the move. Maybe if you're like my second, there's a few words that are starting to come out, and you're on the cusp of the 3 to 2 nap transition. So there's a lot of and increased volume of solids. There's a lot going on. This answer is going to be, no matter when you hit a regression, is that if your baby could self-settle, those skills are still there. If you are now ending up feeding and rocking, we have to strip it right back to the absolute basics, getting your feeds anchored back in. It could be that we need to temporarily, at 9 months, go back onto 3 naps very strategically so that you get those great full milk feeds in so that you don't have any doubt around feeding at bedtime or hunger. Then if that's a no-go, then we lock in the 2 and then we have 3 incredible full milk feeds, and you've got all of your solids in place as well, and then you sleep train bedtime and overnight. Now, there's going to be nuance to that plan. I don't know if baby's feeding overnight. I don't know what's happening in the early hours of the morning, but whenever this happens, you strip it right back to the fundamentals, get to bedtime, get back on track and follow through. And then we're just changing the habit. We're changing the pattern, they're changing the status quo, and baby will pick up on that with your consistency very, very quickly, particularly if they were able to do it before. Trying to bite the bullet with 1, but he only naps 1.5 every day, which leads to early rises following day over time. Yes. So sometimes with, and I'm not sure if you've listened to the podcast episode on troubleshooting nap transitions. Sometimes when we make, even if we've done, the stars have been aligned, we've made the smoothest nap transition possible, regardless of 3 to 2 or 2 to 1. Sometimes we need to take a sideways step and help a baby lengthen that sleep cycle, just lengthen that nap rather, just for a couple of days, and then say, okay, now we're going to do some more active nap training, so that we can just sort of help the process, even if they've been a rock star napper this whole time. Equally, if you want to stay at 16 months on the transitional schedule to just buy you some time so that this transition is smoother as they get a little bit longer, that is very, very age appropriate. And in fact, if I'm working with a 16, 17-month-old with early rising and 5 overnight wakings, but that's not that that's your scenario, but that's definitely scenarios I work with. That age and that scenario, I will absolutely go back on to 2 naps, even if it's just for a couple of days. We break out of the overtiredness, we get back on track, everyone feels better, and then we retransition. Love you, by the way. Oh, love you too. Guys, the love that's coming through is so nice. This is words of affirmation. I should definitely be doing more of these. Struggling to build sleep pressure for nap 2 on the transitional schedule for my 12-month-old. Keep trying. Lauren, tell me more about what you mean by struggling to build sleep pressure. Is it just that baby's taking longer to fall asleep, like 25 minutes? Or are they not going to sleep at all? Sometimes we trim it. Maybe we do a 10:15 till 10:30. I'd be really hesitant to start that initially at 12 months old. I would say we may just need to take the pressure off how long it takes them to fall asleep. If they want to fluff around, roll around, chitter chatter, blow raspberries, all of that, as opposed to, they used to fall asleep just for, within 4 to 6 minutes. We just need to have a change of expectation. That's the common thing that I will see and how I'm interpreting your question. But let me know if I've missed the mark there. So I'm sleep training my 16-month-old that has only fallen asleep when contact naps. So when I sleep train, there's more. We transition 3 to 2 naps, but can't put him down. Long day nap. Yeah. So 7-month-old baby, go back to 3 naps. Absolutely. No questions asked. 3 naps, 4 milk feeds, locked in, anchored in. Take the pressure off and take the pressure off. You're going to end up with really long wake windows, and then your sleep training, which I personally always start at bedtime and overnight. It's going to feel really unproductive because you're going to have overtiredness throwing it out. So go back to 3 naps, 4 hourly milk feeds, 2 to 3 meals. Like, it depends on what you've got happening overnight, but then you sleep train bedtime and overnight and look, it's so normal and common. Let's say I'm working with a family for 2 weeks at 7 months that we're just getting 3 short naps. Big whoop. Doesn't matter. Doesn't bother me. We tackle bedtime and overnight, and then everyone becomes better rested as we go into the naps for the next day, next week, all of that. But absolutely. And this again reiterates that sleep training is not just about the technique. The technique is important, and that teaches the self-settling and et cetera, but it's going to be a moot point if we haven't got the schedule right. Tatiana's asked thoughts on the shush pat method. It can be really useful for newborns and that sort of awkward limbo age of 3 to 4 months. I do find that a lot of babies get overstimulated by it. My babies would have been like, "What are you doing in here? Either get me up or get out." It's a lovely way also sometimes to wean off from holding all the way to sleep or bouncing all the way to sleep. You can still be in the room. It can work for a lot of families. It also has a shelf life. And I usually find from about 4 to 6 months, a lot of babies are like, this is too much. But often that's temperament based as well. Okay, yes, was rocking, now trying this 4 months. Yeah, 4 months is a great age. And look, you've done the rocking, and now it's a step down from that. And that's what sleep training is. It is just doing less of what you are currently doing. So many great questions. Oh, Jess on over on TikTok tried to oh, this is with the 9-month-old, tried to move to 2 naps, but each time she wakes for 2 hours overnight. 3 naps pushes bed too late. You need to cap if you're staying on 3, you need to cap them so tightly to get you to bedtime at a reasonable hour. And then when baby is refusing the 3rd nap, uh, or something else is popping up like super late bedtime or super early rising, but everything else is looking 10 out of 10 great, then you retransition to 2 naps. And then when you make the transition, whenever anyone makes a schedule change, whether it's a tweak, whether it's something bigger, a nap transition, we have to remember that we are working with a baby's body clock. And I saw someone say before in the comments that their pediatrician said that babies don't have a body clock. They absolutely, they're little humans. They absolutely do. Newborns, no, they march the beat of their own drum. But by 8 weeks, they've got their own melatonin being produced. Babies and toddlers absolutely have a body clock. So what was I trying to say to Jess? Whenever we make a change or a nap drop, nights can take a hit. That's where you come back to your checklist. Okay, the baby's had great sleep. We've made change, great feeds, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to see this through with a consistent settling technique. But I think for you, you may need to just go back onto the 3, really strategically, and then re-sleep train and bring it all back, and then transition to 2 naps. Raquel, how do I transition from holding 18-month-old to sleep to them sleeping on their own? This is where you do some sleep training. You you either do less of that, so maybe you go from holding to the problem is at 18 months old, if you do something like pick up, put down, that is very unsustainable on your back. But you might like to just sit in the room and stay by their side for however long. You might like to do where we wean you out of the room over 2 weeks, and we start from being really heavy handed and all the hands on assistance. And then by the end, it's just your voice, and then you're out of the room, and then it becomes time checks. Equally, a lot of families don't want to do that. A lot of temperaments of toddlers don't vibe with such hands-on techniques, in which case FERBA, modified FERBA, controlled, that will absolutely also be appropriate to make that change. You just have to remember that at 18 months old, regardless of whether you're in the room, out of the room, hands-on, not, is that they're going to stand up, they're going to cry, they're going to be loud. It's a very different experience, and that's okay. To, let's say, sleep training a 6-month-old. Jess, thank you. You're very knowledgeable. Oh my goodness, you're welcome. Thank you so much. You are absolutely welcome. Sorry, I'm just reading through all of this. Danielle, best way to get rid of the dummy for 9-month-old that only uses it for sleep, or do you need to? That would be my first thought. Is there a problem with the dummy? I usually say no, not not that I'm like the Bible of baby sleep. I would usually recommend, if we're going to get rid of it, we do it before 6 months, or we hold on to it until a baby or a toddler has dropped their nap entirely, so closer to 3. The reason for that is, for most families, come 9 months, a baby can replace it on their own, in which case it becomes a very useful sleep association. I sprinkle a couple in the cot or the crib, and they can play go fish in the middle of the night and use it. So if it ain't broke, I'd be hesitant as a sleep consultant to fix that. Equally, if for whatever other reason you've decided we're not, no problem, just thought it would be easy to get rid of now, happy to hold on to it. Okay, great. I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The way to get rid of it is you go cold turkey. Now you can do that absolutely at 9 months if that's what you decided. you just have to have a sleep training technique up your sleeve and see it through. And usually after 3 nights, babies don't look back. So that's a really personal choice. But for example, if someone booked in and said, "Should we or shouldn't we?" at 9 months, I'd say, "I just keep it." But that's me. Taylor, if you return for 2 to from 2 to 3 naps, do you return to 4 hourly feeds? Yes. Yes, you go back. And it can be one of the tactics to just sort of get back to basics, even the playing field, lock everything in, everyone takes a big sigh, and you get to bedtime and you do whatever you need to do and fix whatever you need to fix. Um, Should we be phasing out white noise as baby gets older? Currently 14 months. I've seen videos going around about adverse effects, so I get worried. Those videos have a tendency to go around, like it comes in fashion of the sort of fear-mongering around it. I follow the American Academy of Paediatrics that say place it 7 feet away. Most of the devices have very safe decibels, and I know so many adults that bring it in for themselves to sleep better at night. So I don't. What I have done in my own family is that at some point, I can't even remember when, my daughter said, "I don't want the noise anymore." I was like, "No problem." What I do now is I pop it in our hallway because we have very creaky floorboards, and also my children's rooms are opposite each other. So it means that, so for example, both of my children are up in the night, happens to sleep consultants. One needed a wee, no problem, and the other one had a bad dream, but they didn't wake each other. We have this sort of domestic sound buffer from the glow. We use a glow dreaming sound machine that sits in the hallway on the bookshelf between their rooms. It also means that when I go to the toilet myself in the night and I step on the creaky floorboards, that they don't hear it, or at least just softens it. The other thing is, and I think this is a great example of how it's a sleep association, is that I pop it on, let's say, half an hour before bed. And then a couple of weeks ago, my husband white noise drives my husband insane. So it's never been in our room, but he went to put it on as part of the bedtime lean in and wind down routine. And he said, "You know what? I've noticed that my shoulders actually drop when I pop it on because I think we've made it to bedtime. We parent really hard. We are what we call a full contact family. Like we are all in together through the highs and the lows as a family. And so bedtime for him, he said he turns it on and he notices his shoulders drop. And I said, that is a sleep association. Well, for him, it's a bedtime, he can clock off shortly, association. But that's the sort of thing that we're wanting a baby to feel, is like, "Oh, okay, I know what comes next now." So I keep it, make sure it's in a safe position with a safe decibel. And then if and when a baby's ready to, or a toddler or, older chances, I don't want it anymore, then you can look to pop it in the middle or in the hallway. Top tips to transition to a bed from a cot. My number one is do it as late as possible. Full disclosure, my second beautiful baby turned 4 last week. He still sleeps in a cot. Now, 4 probably seems crazy old. He doesn't sleep in it for any cot-like purposes, but that's his bed. He has never asked. He can climb in, he can climb out. He doesn't. Uh, he still sleeps in a cot so happily. My daughter transitioned out of her cot at 3.5. I sit in the camp of crib till college. Like, honestly, for so many babies, unless there's a safety issue and you've got chronic climbing out, and it's unsafe, the longer you can delay it, the smoother the transition, like all baby sleep transitions. The other thing is that sometimes it can be helpful to do it once a baby has dropped their nap completely, because then what happens is sleep pressure is on your side. Toddlers that have napped during the day can find a lot of other things than sleep to do. And so if you then pop them straight into a big boy or big girl bed, is that then you get oh, I've got some energy to burn because I had this really great nap during the day, and so I'm gonna come out, 10 million times. I also have a podcast episode on this. So, ML, who has a great bluey profile picture. I go and have a listen. The podcast is called Nap Trapped. It's one of our earlier episodes. So scroll right down and it's everything you need to know about transitioning to a big bed. 15-month-old always wakes up unhappy, crying, not sure if just seeking breastfeeding or not enough sleep. It could be either. It could also be that that's just how they wake up from a sleep. I remember my first baby, who is just the best, was always just the best sleeper ever. She went through a long phase of waking up from her nap pretty miserable, even though it was like a 2.5 hour nap. So there could be lots of reasons why they're waking up unhappy. They could just be a bit groggy. There'd be a lot of potential contributing factors and also maybe just a little bit of temperament. Emma, on my way to the podcast, excellent. Yes, Aussie Mum loves Bluey. I actually want to do a stitch of a Bluey episode because there's the Bluey episode where Muffin drops the nap and they keep Muffin up too long, which is going to end up with an overtired Muffin. So do as I say, not as Bluey does. If you're doing the 1 to 0 nap transition. Dollface, what's the total hours in a day an 8-month-old should nap? I'm worried mine sleeps too long. Some babies higher sleep total babies than others. My first baby, I could just let her sleep and it would never affect anything. So if that's the case and you've got no bedtime issues, no overnight wakings, no early rising, you do you. Otherwise, I usually cap it just under 3 hours so that we can hold on to 3 naps. If they are on 2 naps, then I'm looking for 3 hours across the 2 naps, generally speaking. GD, my almost 11-month-old is refusing to have 2 naps. When do I drop to 1 nap? Ideally, you hold on to your 2 naps for until closer to 14, 15 to 18 months. So at 11 months, it's more likely that potentially your first nap is too long and it is impacting the second nap, in which case we need to do a switcheroo and cap your first nap to protect your second nap so that your baby goes so that you can hold on to those 2 naps. What is considered an early rise? That is a great question because there are so many different factors. So, for example, if I work with a baby who goes to bed at 6 p.m. and then mum says, and they have early rising at 5 a.m., for me, that is not early rising. That is just baby's maxed out from a 6 p.m. bed. So, on my scheduling, I'm looking for 11 to 12 hours of sleep overnight. So anything sort of, 9, 10, 10 and a half. If I'm doing a bedtime at 7:30, then I'm looking for a wake between 6 and 7. So anything earlier than that for me would be an early rise, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answered your question, Stephanie. Best tips for moving 9-month-old from our room into her own room. Oh, it's a big step. You just do it. You just do it. There's no weaning. You could absolutely during the day, during a wake window, spend some time in there, while you're popping the washing away, play peekaboo in the cot in there, all of those things, but you just do it. There's no weaning process, so to speak. Baby just goes into their own room. I cried the first night my daughter went into her own room. Second baby, I didn't because I think when you're just a little bit more seasoned, you're like, oh no, I know this is great. It's just a different, but for first baby, I was like, oh my goodness, this feels like the biggest step. I actually did it for me personally at 4 months with both of them because both of my babies at 4 months was sleeping 12 hours. And, but I would just lie there awake, hearing every thumb suck, snuffle, squeak. They were sleeping and I was not, so they went into their own room so that I could sleep and I could always hear them, of course, if they needed me. If baby wakes at 6:30 a.m., 7 p.m. bedtime, is it okay to get them up, or can this make the rise early? You've mentioned no lights, camera, action until you have been paying attention. At least I love it. 6:30 is okay, absolutely no problem. A lot of families actually just need to get up at 6:30. The thing to look out for is if 6:30 becomes 6:20, which becomes 10 past 6, which becomes 5:50. That's what I want to always protect against, and it can be a little bit of a slippery slope. But equally, if you're happy with 6:30 and you don't have any of that, then no problem. The other thing to consider is that depending on how old your baby is the way I like to anchor my feeds in. I usually, let's say we're doing 4-hourly feeds. If for example, if your baby's 6 months old, I do 7, 11, 3, and then 30 minutes prior to bed. So maybe you feed at 6:45, just so you're not stretched too far, if that makes sense. But essentially, there's no one hard and fast way to do things. And I think the important thing to always remember about taking sleep consultants' advice, including my own, is that I work with families who have sleep issues, and I'm looking to fix, troubleshoot, create solutions for their problems. So that's why I can be very particular and micromanage things like no lights, camera, action until 7 a.m. because I'm wanting to fix something, but I'm also wanting to future proof my families from the common issues that I see. If you haven't got any of those, rock it. What age do you move Bub to have breakfast solids before milk? I usually do that on my 12-month schedule. I remember my own maternal child health nurse recommended it at 10 months with my first baby. I usually do it for families around 12 months, unless they've already done it under the advice of pediatricians, doctors, maternal child health nurses. 5-month-old goes down at 7 p.m. but wakes 1 to 2 times per night and refuses to go back to sleep without a feed. I think 1 to 2 feeds for a lot of 5-month-old can still be really age appropriate. The things I would be looking out for are how are your feeds during the day? Can we consolidate them and get fuller feeds in? And are the feeds overnight just snack comfort feeds, or is baby taking full feeds? In which case, feed, burp, back down to bed. But contrary to popular belief with sleep consultants, even though I suspect a lot of 5-month-old babies can in fact happily go all night or maybe just with one feed, I'm never in some desperate rush to wean. Usually it happens as part of the whole plan and the process. Jess, any tips on trying to change feed times? Feeds every 3 hours sounds like it needs to be 4. She snacks. So again, I have a podcast episode on why we don't recommend feeding to sleep and what to do instead. And even though you might not be feeding to sleep, that episode goes into detail about how and why we would anchor in, particularly the why, anchor in feeds. Now, how anyone and the frequency in which people feed their babies is completely up to them. When I am looking to fix a problem and make change, I will commonly, depending on the age, move to anchored 4-hourly feeds, so that if you think about the mantra of tanking up, not topping up, and I know you've mentioned she snacks, that's what we're wanting. Because what happens is when we make change at then bedtime and overnight, you've got overnight wakings. For so many parents, doubt creeps in about, is this genuine hunger? And we never want to do anything before with any sleep training through genuine hunger. So the way that I work is I get my families to bedtime, and you can easily squash that doubt because we have met all of these needs beautifully throughout the day. But essentially, let's say your baby is 7 months old and they've been feeding 3 hourlies and you want to move them to 4, you just stretch them to 4. You just stretch it, and you go and check the litter box, you pat the dog, you go outside and look at the leaves. It's usually that first stretch from the 7 a.m. one to the 11 a.m. one that even just after that, you then put baby on the breast at 11, or you offer them the full bottle at 11, and then like, oh my goodness, this is the best feed of my life. In which case, you've kind of already broken out of the sleep cycle. Sorry, out of the snack cycle, and then you're on the up. She's 9 months. So on a just for me, again, this is just how I do it. For me, if a 9-month-old is on 3 naps, we do 4 milk feeds during the day, and if they are on 2 naps, we move it to 3 milk feeds. I also have a podcast episode on that. I feel like I'm Oprah. Like, you get a podcast episode, you get a podcast episode, you get one too. Brooke, how do you get a 14-month-old baby to stop milk feeds during the night? It depends on how many you've got. Let's say you've got 4, I'd immediately drop that to 2. Um, and then you reset. You need a sleep training technique up your sleeve to resettle everything that isn't those 2. It can absolutely be done. And then what usually hear from families is they then watch their 14-month-old or however old, their older baby suddenly eat better throughout the day because you've only got 1 feed, Brooke. I just wean it down. Depends on the time. You've got 2 options. So let's say baby always feeds at 1 a.m. You would then, your option 1 is you either resettle 1 a.m., resettle until baby goes back to sleep, and then offer a feed, but it's probably going to need to be smaller at the next wake up, if there is a next wake up. The other thing is you just whittle down time at the breast or volume in the bottle until there's negligible amount left. So drop the volume every 2 nights until there's almost nothing left, and then that wake may still occur, and that's when you go in with a sleep training technique to say 9. 1 a.m. It's like I do this for a living. I can pick it. I can pick what time. Babies are very, sometimes you can feel very alone in all of this, but I assure you there are a lot of similarities between families and babies. Danielle, if baby early rises before 6 a.m. after 8 to 10 hours of sleep, do you just spend the next hour trying desperately to get them back? I don't know why I emphasize desperately. I just read it in that way in my head. To get them back to sleep in darkness, even if they are wide awake. Danielle, I recommend go and have a listen to the Early Rising podcast series. It's often about less is more. It's the sometimes, and again, this is age dependent, it's sometimes the desperately trying that delays them going back to sleep. So I usually use a less is more approach here, just like you would at 10 p.m. rather, 10 p.m. All right, I'm going to answer one more question because then I'm going to log off, have something to eat, and go and pick up my own babies. We got swimming lessons this afternoon. Let's find one. There's lots. There's lots. And like I said before, if I miss it, definitely join Snooze Social to ask Snooze Social is great for schedule reviews, just quick punchy questions, and if you're needing an overhaul or it can't be answered in a few messages, then definitely book a consult so that I can just dedicate a whole plan and consultation to you and your baby and getting to know you and fixing your problem. Stacey Lou, I'll answer yours. Fine to keep 9-month-old on 3 naps until really obvious signs of sleep disruptions. Absolutely. I had that question come through in TikTok comments quite a bit last week. Absolutely fine. Usually what you're going to experience is the 3rd nap is going to get refused, in which case it's time to drop it. Or if you cannot fit your 3 naps in without what feels like early rising and a really late bed, it's just that we only have 24 hours in the day to distribute sleep totals, in which case you drop it. All right. I think to summarize, if anyone that has joined in just recently. A lot of the answers to these wonderful questions, I have a podcast episode on the theme of them. So lots about the 3 to 2 nap transition, the 2 to 1 nap transition, the transitional schedule for 12 to, let's say, 18-month-old babies. My podcast is called Nap Trapped, and you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watch it on YouTube. Um, I'm going to do these lives more often. If I've missed your question, jump into my Baby Sleep membership, Snooze Social. Beck and I are in there moderating and answering questions Monday to Friday. Otherwise, guides, courses, consults, 2-week packages, you name it, you never have to be alone in any of this. And I will plan to do another one of these on, I think, on Wednesday. The other thing that was mentioned that listeners that have just joined in at the end may have missed is that if you're wondering if you need the 3 to 4 month sleep course or the 5 to 12 month sleep guide, then choose. I have created a first 12-month bundle, which includes both for less than the price of the 3 to 4 month sleep guide. So DM me and just say, I need the bundle, and I will send it straight through to you. Oh, and this is what I'm going to end on. I must say, your skin is amazing. Thank you so much. Gosh, I am definitely going to do more of these. You have all filled up my cup. So thank you very much. And I will see you on Wednesday. I'll put up a little notification so you know when I'm going to be on. Bye, everyone. Happy snoozing.